Welcome to Super Talk, the podcast that scratches your superhero itch. Just two suburban dads nerding out over superhero stuff on the small screen and the big. Buckle up, people. Enjoy the ride. Professor, like a gentleman. Are you ready, sir?
Yeah, we got a big day today. Let's go.
We got a big day. In 3.
Welcome to Super Talk, the weekly podcast dedicated to news and reviews of comic book media on the big and small screen. This is episode 112. I'm your host, Brian Professor Pettis, and with me, as always, my illustrious co-host, Titanium Tony Estrella. Titanium, we had a big weekend.
What's up, Star-Lord?
What's the what is it? The notorious, the infamous, the whatever Star-Lord? Yeah,
the legendary.
Legendary.
Yeah.
I tell you what,
we got a big show.
It's been a little over a week since we have recorded an episode, but I'm going to tell you, I'm so excited about this episode for lots of different reasons. But first and foremost, we missed Titanium's birthday between the last episode and this one. So happy birthday, Titanium!
Thank you, sir. Double nickels. I'm old as shit.
Yeah, that 40th birthday never gets old. Keeps on coming.
God bless you.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Sure
but,
does.
happy birthday to
like
Titanium.
hemorrhoids.
He went off and celebrated with some friends down in Florida for a nice getaway weekend.
Yeah.
Didn't drink, didn't party or anything. Just kind of
drank way too much. Went to the shrimp festival on Amelia Island. Ate a lot of shrimps. It was excellent. It was a good time.
Can't beat it.
Good friends.
And then we've got a big review this episode. We did get the chance to see Guardians of the Galaxy Vol.3 when you got back on Sunday, and
this will be a spoiler episode, folks. So
doozy,
a big spoiler. We got to get into it, and we'd love to review it without spoilers, but it's almost impossible.
Look, people, by this time, number one, if you're listening to this show and you haven't seen it, what rock are you living under? First and foremost, take the headphones off, get out from underneath the rock, and go see the movie. Number two, if you're listening to this podcast and haven't seen the movie yet, I'm not sure why, and maybe you're waiting for a review to find out if you want to go see the movie, and I'll tell you right now, you should have already seen it, and you're going to want to. So we'll give you all the details today.
We're going to get into it, but a huge spoiler warning for those that haven't seen it. I know a couple of people I ran into. Hey, when you drop the podcast? I said as soon as possible. Daughter's got a soccer game. I got to go see that. Family first. And then after that, we're going to do the podcast and we'll post it. But listen, I just want to reiterate, this is going to be full of spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out or check this out first and then maybe go see it. I'm sure like TikTok has spoiled half the shit in the movie already. So
exactly. And I think you and I did a very good job of staying dark as long as we could and as long as we did. I was pleasantly surprised at everything I saw in the movie because I didn't pay attention to anything that was on the internet, a week and a half before the movie came out. So
yeah, I'm glad I did that. It's unusual to be that removed from information, and I did my very best. I really went into it pretty dark. Like, I didn't have any idea what the post-credits
Well, and I think
were.
it helped that the premiere was only a week before the movie came out, which they have been doing these premieres a little bit more than like a week and a half, 2 weeks before the movie.
And then they lift the embargo and stuff like that.
Yeah, so the premiere was only a week ahead of time. So, most of the people that got a chance to see this early, I would say, didn't really have a lot of time to spoil anything. And frankly, and again, I kept off social media. I didn't want to see anything, didn't want to listen to anything until I had a chance to see it. So, and I'm glad I did because it was worth it.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into it. Before we get started, I want to thank the listeners that bring the show to you. Those are our patrons. Patreon.com/supertalk is how you become a member of the patronship. If you want to support the show, you donate $1 every time we come out with an episode, and it really helps us out. So, Patreon.com/supertalk is how you join. And thanks to all our patrons out there. We really appreciate it. It really helps us out.
Thank you.
Let's jump into the review section. We did have two new episodes of Titans since our last episode 10 and 11. We'll do a quick review and recap of both of those episodes. Episode 10 really focused on, if you remember, episode 9 was really about Garfield being trapped in the red and getting in touch with his connection to all living things, and why he can be a shapeshifter and all these other things. And then at the end of the episode, he was trapped somewhere with the Doom Patrol. We found out in episode 10 that he was in some alternate dimension with all of his ex-Doom Patrol buddies, or at least 3 of them. And Starfire ended up being trapped in there as well at some point in time during the episode. A lot of this was around them trying to figure out how to get out from that situation, which they ultimately did. The other big part of the episode was Sebastian, Brother Blood, working with Connor to launch his game that he had always been,
his game app, that he was passionate about that before he became Brother Blood.
Yep. So he launched his game, and then when he was about to launch the game, he infused the game with some we'll say Trigon energy.
Yeah.
Dark magic, and it made the game an immediate worldwide sensation. So it was everybody was talking about, and it was like one of the fastest games to 1 million downloads, 1 billion downloads, or whatever. But then, come to find out, people that were playing it ended up going into a coma because the dark magic was sucking the life energy out of him, and it was feeding him.
Which is very reminiscent of a lot of games these days.
Yeah,
where as soon as you start playing them, you go into some kind of coma, or your brain becomes so mushy that you can't think anymore. So that basically very reminiscent of today's world.
I'm not saying this, but I do believe the showrunners were taking a shot at popular culture in regards to gaming and things like that. Yeah. But with the help of Connor, who saw how bad things were getting, the Titans were able to shut the game down, diffuse what was happening. We found out that Mother Mayhem, who had been killed earlier, was alive at the end of that episode. And then we kind of moved into and at the end of the episode, Gar and Starfire escaped back into the real world and rejoined the Titans, which was really important for the plot of the show. Episode 11 really focused on a couple of things. The Titans find out that I guess Lex Luthor had developed a system to build a bomb based on Starfire's powers. Right. It was like her blue energy, and he realized that the blue energy she emits is likely the only thing that could defeat Brother Blood.
Right.
And so he had built this plan to build this bomb based on her powers. Connor found the same thing out, and Connor reunited with the Titans, and they ended up kind of going to the lab to figure out how to build this bomb. They are somewhat successful in doing so. Brother Blood confronts his mother, who is back, and ends up killing her and sucking out the magic from her, and ends up totally killing her this time.
Becoming more powerful,
But Connor confronts Brother Blood with the bomb, thinking it would stop him, and come to find out it didn't stop him, and he ended up becoming his full version of Brother Blood with the whole costume and everything. And so Connor doesn't look very good.
Which is a badass costume.
Yeah, it is very cool. And he used the horn finally to at the end of the episode. We don't know what's happening, but he eventually used the horn.
Summoning Trigon.
Right, exactly. So that was the big plot of the last episode. I believe we're only a couple episodes left before the end of the season.
Yeah.
And again, this is the final season for the show. So, good episodes. I thought they were. Oh, the other big thing with episode 11, Tim Drake had been sent back to Gotham by Nightwing on some mission, and then he ended up having to train with Jason Todd, and becoming the real Robin and
the
everything.
Red Hood, yeah.
So that was.
I guess that was a little test for him.
Right.
Yeah. He sent him on an information mission that was bogus. Yeah, not bad.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Jason Todd version in this show, and he does play a pretty good prick.
Yeah, he sure does.
Yeah, so I was glad to see him back, and so we'll see what happens. I do think they're kind of trying to culminate, and I think the next episode is going to at least give us an idea of what's happening here by the end of the season. But there we go for Titans. All right, let's jump into the news section. Got plenty of news to discuss this week. Jonathan Majors' first day of his court case or trial was today. Not a lot happened today. It seemed pretty quiet, but we do know that his team filed a motion to dismiss basically saying that this entire trial is a witch hunt and people are out to get Jonathan Majors. They're fame shaming him. They're all out to get him, and we're just there's not enough evidence to bring any charges against him.
The criminal system is biased. He's a 200-pound black man. The criminal system is out to get him, and there was his lawyer is doing a really good job of not only downplaying the incident and also turning the victim
Jonathan into the victim.
Jonathan into the victim. Yeah.
Right.
And what really happened? We still
they're setting the narrative, or they're trying to.
They're trying to at least. Right. And this court date, it's been extended for one more month, right? So the next court date, and if he doesn't show to that one, there could be a warrant for his arrest.
That's the other thing. He wasn't there in person today. He did attend via Zoom, but he was not there in person.
And the judge said, "Look, I don't want this to happen, so just stay close to your lawyer, listen to your lawyer." I guess the defense, his lawyers, I guess presented a motion that they need to respond to by the end of May, and then the court date sometime in June. So I'm sure that motion was to, dismiss
all
the
charges.
Trial.
Right,
yeah. And I guess the prosecution has time to do that. Wow, it's getting sticky. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I know several organizations, several production companies has dropped Jonathan Majors. Some have not. Disney is sticking by him.
Disney and Marvel have not yet publicly responded. They're sticking by him.
There's been rumors that they've been looking at recasting him.
But it's just rumors.
But nothing has been...
Right, I think they're doing their due diligence to be, hey, what happens just in case? Look, the fact of the matter is, if he's facing some jail time here and gets convicted, and we did find out he's facing at least a year in jail if he is convicted, what are you going to do? You can't stand by somebody that's going to be in prison,
I mean, they dumped Johnny Depp pretty quickly, so I think they learned from that, and they're going to wait to see how this shakes out.
That's true.
They dumped him very quickly.
They did dump Johnny Depp from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise very quickly.
Yeah.
And maybe they are saying, hey, maybe we just wait and see how this plays out this time.
Yeah, there's been several other actors that are in this situation that get dumped and shut down pretty quickly, and then some that they kind of linger on. I mean, look at Ezra Miller. I mean, they really have stuck with him pretty
well. Look, you and we've been saying this, that you can't punt when you got a movie coming out. Yeah. Now, you and I, our opinions about the Flash movie have changed dramatically based on some of the things that have been said about it. Yeah. The trailers have been off the charts good.
Yeah.
And I have good faith that this might be a very good movie. The future of Ezra Miller, from my perspective, still way up in the air.
Yeah.
Still way up in the air.
I agree.
But they're never going to come out and publicly say that when they got a movie coming out in 2 weeks.
No.
Never going to do that.
Why cut off your nose to spite your face?
Right.
I mean, that would be ridiculous.
Same thing with, they haven't said anything about Aquaman. Same thing as they didn't say anything about the future Shazam. And they're just not going to do that. They're gonna try to recoup as much as they can for the investments they've made in these properties, and then make a decision going forward from there.
A lot of people say, well, he was, exonerated from a lot of these charges and a lot of these allegations. The fact of the matter is that video was still out there of him choking that girl to the ground. And that was a while ago. And I don't know, man. We got to see how this shakes out. I'm looking forward to the movie.
I am too.
I'm really looking forward to the movie.
The sad thing is, I think the movie's going to be really good.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to enjoy it very much.
I think he's going to put on one hell of a performance.
I mean, Ben Affleck has come out publicly and said this is the best version of Batman he's ever played, and he wishes he didn't step away from the role because he finally figured out how to play the role. And some of the scenes that he's been in the trailers, it looked off the charts great.
Yeah.
I think that the whole plot synopsis of him going back in time and changing things, and now there's nobody out there to stop Zod from invading Earth. Oh my God! It's just like it's awesome.
Yeah.
And they're taking pieces from Flashpoint in the comics, but they're remaking some of the stuff, like interchanging Superman with Supergirl and a bunch of other things. So really cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty big hit. I think it will do well, but Jonathan Majors thing is still up in the air, people. We thought the legal system doesn't work that way. We didn't get the answers that we wanted to today, so it's ongoing. There was some kind of restraining order that was granted, a full restraining order for both sides, but they can't talk to each other, have contact with each other, even through third parties. They're not allowed to communicate whatsoever. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I just, there's a lot.
It'll play out. Look, it'll play out in the courts.
And listen, I warn people of this. Do not believe what the defense lawyer, or do not believe what the prosecution is leaking to the press or talking about, or speculating, or rumors, or that is all part of their game that they play with the public. It is a strategy. Yeah. So it will shake out in the courtroom, because there they can't lie and they can't leak shit to the press, even though it's false. So,
well, I think up until this point, Jonathan Majors' team has been very much trying to play the court case out in the press, in the public. They've been leaking things, and we just have to wait for the courts to kind of figure this stuff out. The fact of the matter is, Disney has way too much invested in him that they can't afford to jump from him if indeed he is found innocent of these charges, because they have way too much invested, not only with Loki season 2, but with the future of the MCU being based really much this whole phase around the Kang character. So they're going to wait, and it's smart for them to do so. There's nothing pressing them to do anything yet.
Yeah, I mean, Loki's in the can already. If they did recast, it would have to be something after Loki. They couldn't do that. I mean, there's a lot riding on this, so it's super important for them to be patient and see, allegedly he committed these crimes. So we'll find out in the court cases, but very interesting situation to follow, especially for people in our seats, because it has ramifications. The future could change dramatically.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move on. We got as we know that. We've been. It seems like we've been talking about this for so many months now, but we are expecting a Fantastic Four casting announcement very soon. This movie is scheduled to begin filming very shortly. Expected in early 2025. Now, will not be coming out next year. Will be coming out in early 2025, probably in the May timeframe. There's not been an official date yet set for that movie, but we do believe that that's when that will come out, or I think February was the original date. They may be moving that, but they will be filming that movie starting soon, I believe this fall. So we know a casting announcement's coming. I do believe, and I think you and I have talked about this, Titanium, that they're going to be doing this at Comic-Con. It makes all the sense in the world to push these people out on stage at that point in time. Yeah. Look, as so many have reported right now, it does look like Adam Driver has secured the role of Mr. Fantastic. All the other things that have been said on the internet is just rumor, conjecture, just speculation. From Margot Robbie playing, Sue Storm to, 2 or 3 different people aligned with the Human Torch. It's just all speculation until we get an official announcement. I think the Adam Driver thing does make a lot of sense because of who has reported the news. But the other ones are just kind of way too speculative.
Margot Robbie is much of a smoke show as she is. I absolutely would love her to play Sue Storm. Jodie Comer was another name that's being floated out there. I'd like either of them. I think they're both beautiful women and very talented actors. I think they do a great job. But Margot Robbie, I mean, she's already Harley Quinn. Now she's Barbie. I don't see it. I don't see her completely flipping into this role. I don't know the future of her going forward as Harley Quinn. I know James Gunn adores her and would love her in some aspect. I know that Elseworld that's being produced now, Joker Part 2, has
Lady Gaga
as Harley Quinn in that. Which is going to be interesting. I'm going to reserve my right to comment on that.
Hey, the one thing that we can say about this movie, though, is Mila Kunis had been speculated to be playing Sue Storm. And she came out, she was on a talk show and came out. And
she was speculated to be cast as the Thing, too.
Yeah, and you had mentioned that she had...
Ridiculous.
There's rumors that she was going to be... They were going to gender swap the Thing, and also... And I told you what I thought about that. It was the most ridiculous thing ever. However... She came out publicly and said that the speculation was drawn from a lunch she had with Matt Shackman, who she knew and who she was talking about for a bunch of things. And she said she wasn't in the Fantastic Four movie. So she said, no, I'm not in the movie. But she did say, I know who is.
Right.
And I can't say, but I do know who is.
Yeah.
Which makes us believe, as we've always speculated, that this casting is already complete. Yeah. It's already been done. So the fact that she comes out and says that she knows who's going to be in the movie says a lot.
Yeah.
But it also puts to rest. I wouldn't be surprised if she's playing another role in the movie or has a small bit part in the movie or something.
Absolutely.
But she even denied being in the movie to begin with. So who knows? But well, again, hopefully July we'll find out at Comic-Con. So good news. What I'll say, there's good news and bad news about this. First, good news. Blade confirmed to be rated R. This is just great news, huge news. I mean, we knew that Deadpool 3 was going to be rated R. That was something that Ryan Reynolds had come out and said that was something that he and his team had negotiated with Marvel, that they wanted to maintain that R rating for their series of movies. And really, could they really do the movie and not be rated R? I mean, it would have just been too many bleeps and everything else. But Blade being rated R is huge. I think you see that Marvel is venturing into some of the dark and supernatural things. Look, we know that the Punisher is coming back for Daredevil Born Again. I would not be surprised if that series gets a TVMA rating on Disney Plus. How do you do the Punisher without that?
Yeah.
It's just, you just can't dumb it down too much.
He's one of the most brutal figures in comic books.
Yes, exactly.
How do you dumb him down?
Again, his 2 seasons on Netflix were 2 of the most brutal in regards to violence I've ever seen, and it was great, but it was really violent and brutal. But
by the way, Daredevil Born Again is on halt right now because of the writer's strike.
So, and that was the other thing about the Blade movie. Well, good news is they had started filming. They had started filming some scenes and episodes for Daredevil Born Again. They had to halt production because of the writer's strike. Blade was set to begin filming. Again, this movie is set to come out next fall in September. That's the date that's on the calendar right now.
Yeah.
They were set to begin filming in Atlanta very shortly, and New Orleans, I believe, was the other site that they were going to be doing. And they have halted that and have said, again, rumors that the writer's strike is delaying the start of the filming of this movie, and it's likely they will miss their September date next year.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah.
So my speculation there is it's possible at least Daredevil gets swapped with Blade, and I mean, not Daredevil, Deadpool gets swapped with Blade, because Deadpool had been moved to October or November next year.
Yeah.
And I think he get potentially, if they're on schedule or ahead of schedule, they could move back to September to fill that empty spot and maybe move Blade to November, which would be fine.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they move Blade into February, which might push the Fantastic Four back into the May timeframe, right? So we'll see.
Yeah.
No official announcement from Marvel, but again, the writer's strike that everybody's kind of aware of, and I don't know what the status of that is, if it's been settled yet, if it's still ongoing. I haven't been paying attention the last couple of days.
Yeah, I asked ChatGPT about the writer's strike, and the AI came back and said it was a great idea. They should stay on strike.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. So we'll find out. But the good news is Deadpool and the Thunderbolts are on schedule. We also know that Captain America 4 has been filming. That movie is scheduled to come out next May. That is on schedule, not being affected. Thunderbolts coming out next July. That is still on schedule and not being affected. And again, as I mentioned, Deadpool, we know who the writers of that movie are, and it's 3 people, and they're pretty much still working because they're starring in the movie, so they're not going to strike against themselves. But that movie,
Secret Invasion next month.
Yeah,
in June.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that a lot.
Yeah, I think so too. So we'll kind of see, but we've got a crazy, I'd say, month and a half, right? We have Flash June 6th. We have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse June 26th or something like that.
Ooh.
It's in June, I believe. And then Secret Invasion comes out right in the middle of June, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, we're going to have a pretty good month here coming up.
Yeah, good month.
Right. And then we got Blue Beetle later this summer, which will be fun.
Yep.
Be fun. All right, well, let's jump into the topic of the week, and that is our review of Guardians of the Galaxy Vol.3, brought to us by our friends over at Studio GG Studios, home of the main band, Corn on the Cob.
Absolutely.
Hey, Goat, I hope you're doing better. I know you had a little bit of an issue.
Goat's on the mend. Goat's on the mend. He's on the mend. Word is from the other bandmates that he's doing really well and banging out the bass like he was born to. So, banging out the bass like he was born to.
All right, well, I hear that. All right, thanks, Studio G. Appreciate all your support. All right, well, let's jump right into this. We got to see the movie on Sunday. My daughter, funny enough, got to see the movie Saturday night. She had asked me if I had seen it yet. It's like, no, we had plans Friday night. We had plans Saturday night. Couldn't see it.
Titanium was out of town.
Titanium's out of town. We're going to see it Sunday. So she went to see it Saturday, and I asked her, I said, so don't spoil anything, but what did you think of the movie? And she said, her response to me was, I've never laughed and cried so much in a movie before.
Wow.
And I think that is pretty much spot on a great review, without any spoilers, of you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, and these are characters that you've known and you love so much, and you're going to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So,
spoiler review coming up again. There's another warning. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. But yeah, that's a great non-spoiler review. And based on how your wife watched that movie, I think
you were closer to her than I was.
100% correct.
Right.
I took my daughter, Isabella, and she was stoked, and she absolutely loved the movie. But sitting next to Isabella and I was your wife, and she is an avid animal lover. Rabid animal lover. And you could torture humans before you torture animals, and she would be okay with that. But sobbing.
Oh.
She was absolutely sobbing at certain parts of that movie. And it was adorable. I heard her laugh out loud several times. Isabella and I laughed out loud several times. Very emotional movie.
Look,
very emotional.
You and I have talked about this leading up into this movie. Marvel's been on a bit of a downswing. Since some people have come out and said this is the best movie since Endgame. And I kind of went back and looked at the rec. So we know Spider-Man No Way Home came out after in December of 2021. So that movie, I think, was the best movie since Endgame. And
Okay.
Marvel was part of that, obviously. It was a Marvel production. Other than that, though, people forget that after Endgame, we had one movie, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had basically almost a full year, if not a little bit more, before we got another movie from Marvel.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. Right? Mm-hmm. So the next movie after that was Black Widow, which didn't come out until the following summer.
Yeah.
So that was a little over a year. So look, easily, other than Spider-Man No Way Home, easily the best thing they've done since Endgame, without question.
Yeah.
This movie absolutely 100% moves its way into my top 10 Marvel MCU movies of all time. I'd have to
Out
look
of the trilogy, where would you rate
it? Oh,
it?
it's number one. It's the best Guardians movie they've ever made.
Okay.
I think number one, I love because of the nostalgia and just because of the way it set the team up and introduced you to the characters and all the other stuff. But this was a much better movie than number one overall. Best Guardians movie, easily a top 10 MCU movie. Just so, and we talked about this, Titanium. They needed a hit. They've had very lackluster box office results, very lackluster responses critically to their movies recently. Not much to really kind of celebrate or just be excited about for any of the projects they've had up until this point. So they needed a hit. They needed a hit, and they needed to get their audience back. And you and I talked. We trust James Gunn.
Yeah.
We trust him, and again, the sad thing is he's leaving, but that gives me a little bit of faith in what he's doing over at DC, right?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
we had a feeling that this movie was going to be good, and it delivered.
Oh, yeah. James Gunn knows these characters, and the character arc that he masterminded for these, it just comes to fruition here. I mean, it really came full circle. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really, really good. There are some things that I didn't like about it, but the majority of this, I agree with you 100%. It's my number one, right slightly above number one, the Guardians of Volume 1. But this is definitely my favorite out of the trilogy as well. In my top 10, I have to look at that, but probably...
oh my God. If you look at your top 10, you will basically say, I think, number one, I think Guardians 1 is in your top 10, by the way. So if this is above Guardians 1, you know it cracks the top 10 now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably in my top 10. I haven't looked at my and I need to do that.
We should look at that again, but I think this makes, it's easily top 6, 7. I mean, it's up there.
Yeah.
Look,
it's very emotional. It's very funny.
And it was 2.5 hours long.
It hit all, and it kept moving. Like
it didn't feel like it was too long, and it didn't feel like it was dragging along.
No.
But it was like the right time.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, really good pacing, really good storytelling. The humor, some people didn't like the cameos that were in it, but I thought they were brilliant. I really liked them.
The cameos that were in I'll say there was one major cameo that was kind of new, and that was Jason Fillion, who
Nathan
Fillion, who played. Who was he? What was the show that he's on?
He's on The Rookie.
What was the show that he's on?
Firefly.
Firefly,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. But him and James Gunn have been buddies for years.
Yeah.
And they've been looking for a role, and he was kind of teased as Simon Williams potentially in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Right. As Wonder Man.
But he made a cameo in this movie as one of the security guards.
Awesome.
And he was awesome.
Hilarious.
He was awesome. And Sylvester Stallone was in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 already. And so his cameo, I wouldn't even call a cameo. It was just basically kind of a...
Same character.
Just, now he's got to...
Absolutely.
Right. So
I thought it was great. I mean... all those characters that he put together. The story didn't seem to get slow at any point. It moved right along. The pace was amazing. It was brutal. I mean, it was the animal cruelty aspect of this. The way he portrayed it was unbelievable. Like it was so deep and emotional, and you felt these creatures that he's created. You felt such empathy for them, and you were like so emotionally attached, especially Rocket. I mean, just great.
Well, we had a very good feeling that we were going to get Rocket's origin story in this movie, and we very much. Not only did we get his origin story, we got his entire story of how he was not only created, but how he escaped and everything. We got it all.
Yeah.
And while he was in a coma, or I'll say he was hurt and not part of the movie for a good 3/4 of the movie.
Yeah.
The younger part of him that was part of the flashbacks that we saw, wow, powerful.
Yeah.
Just the establishment of his friends in Experiment Group 89, and all of his buddies, Layla and Teefs and Floor. And,
We've said it 100 times. Tell a good story.
James Gunn gets it.
Yeah, tell a
character
good
development, develop characters, pull on the heartstrings a little bit.
And let's talk about a really compelling villain.
So,
wow.
Funny enough, as we were, my son, I picked up my son last week from college, and we were talking about this movie, and I was asking him if he was looking forward to it. He goes, "Yeah, I really hope it's good." He says, you know what? One of the best reasons some of these movies are good is because they have really good villains. He said, that's why The Boys is such a great television show.
Yeah.
It's because Homelander's a great villain. He's a perfect asshole. He's somebody you want to root against so badly.
Yeah.
You want to see him fall. But then at the same time, when he doesn't, you kind of understand why.
Yeah.
That's why Infinity War and Endgame were such great movies. Because Thanos was a villain who you knew needed to be defeated, but you kind of understood what he was doing and why at the same time.
Yes.
Right? Loki, Tom Hiddleston's Loki, has been a consummate villain in the MCU for years, and when that character plays a villainous role, those movies shine and succeed.
Yeah.
You needed a good villain in this movie.
Yeah.
And look, Chukwudi Iwuji, say that 10 times fast, by the way.
Chukwudi Iwuji.
Chukwudi
You know what?
Iwuji.
I'm so mad you said it first because I've been practicing it all day, and I was going to hit you with it, and I'd be like Chukwudi Iwuji, and you were going to be like, "Holy shit, you nailed it!"
Nailed it.
Wow, it's probably the only name I've ever studied before a show was that. But I'm telling you right now,
We knew he was great.
he was in Peacemaker, awesome.
He was great.
And that's the reason why Shazam fell flat. I thought the villains were awful.
The two girls.
I mean,
and that's why the Marvels is going to suck.
And Thor: Love and Thunder, that Gore, the God Butcher, they really
Could have
did
been so
develop
much
him.
better.
It could have been so
Again-
much better.
again,
Great actor. The small role that he played was amazing, but they never developed him.
Right.
You kind of felt for him a little bit, but they should have really developed him more instead of spending.
My
so
son
much
Charlie
time.
and I were having this exact same conversation. We were like, Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. Okay, Wanda, we love Wanda. Now all of a sudden you want us to hate her? It was hard, as much as you understood, but it was kind of hard because she was a beloved character, right? And a smoke show, right? How do you hate her?
Hard,
right? And then you go into Thor: Love and Thunder, and like you said, Gore the God Butcher could have been so much better villain, but they spent way too much time developing this Jane Foster Thor storyline, love kind of undying. I mean, it was like
It was a theme park, Asgardian theme park. It was kind of a way. I mean,
spent too much time doing that.
Looking back on that, and then the whole where the gods meet and all that area.
Yeah.
Looking back on that movie, it's not good.
But Quantumania, I'm sorry, as much as they want Kang to be a enormous villain
This
in the
guy
MCU,
could act circles around
Easily.
Jonathan Majors.
Chukwudi Iwuji, number one, nailed it. Nailed the High Evolutionary
He's
character.
my number
nailed
one
it.
recast if they eliminate Kang.
Yeah, everybody was saying that. He would have been a great Kang.
I mean, not even a great Kang. They should have made him the next big villain of Marvel. He was brilliant. He was awesome.
Some of the theory around the recasting of Kang is that they're saying that potentially they may pivot from Kang to Doctor Doom. So they may, say...
They really should.
Yeah.
Because Kang's, he's so complicated, right? With all of his variants.
Way
and
too
confusion.
complicated.
As a comic book enthusiast, we know how complicated he is. We kind of get it because we grew up reading it. And it's very hard for somebody to jump in and follow and know this guy.
Wait a minute, there's how many of them? There's this unlimited number of them.
Unlimited?
How many?
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you defeat an unlimited number of songs? I mean, it's very complicated,
Yeah.
and I think they bit off a little more than they could.
But
chew.
Chukwudi Iwuji just crushed it as the High Evolutionary.
High Evolutionary
just
should be
the emotion he showed, just the indifference,
brutality,
the indifference to the animals and things that he experimented on, and he would turn them into something, and then he would just destroy them in the next second, not even think about it, incinerate things here and there. I mean, destroyed a whole planet full of creatures that he created.
It's not the first time I've done this and started over.
Right. He's like, well, yeah, it didn't work out the way I thought. We're gonna have to start all over again. And he's like, you're gonna kill all those people? Yeah, we're gonna kill all those people. And so you hated him.
Yeah.
And he needed to go down.
Yeah.
And the way he went down and how he went. So again, I think Marvel, you get this now, have compelling villains that are played by good actors and actresses that make us want to root against them, right? Even, I'll say, look at all the Guardians movies, all three of them. Mm-hmm. Guardians 1, right? We had Ronan was the villain. And I think he was portrayed perfectly. That character was portrayed perfectly.
Yeah.
And he had the undertones and underlinings of Thanos supporting Ronan. But Ronan was the villain. And it was played perfectly. And it was a big threat that the Guardians had to defeat. That was great.
Yeah.
Second one, Ego. Kurt Russell playing a good guy, his dad, who ends up being a bad guy. Perfect.
Yeah.
It played perfectly. And again, High Evolutionary played perfectly. And again, they changed some of the comic book history behind Rocket and what the High Evolutionary is and what he did. And all. Who cares? It was done perfect.
Yeah, well, it really was.
It was done so perfect.
Yeah, a great villain, I think, is so key to these stories. The downfall of so many of these. Here's another great example: Black Widow, the Russian Vladimir or whatever who developed the Red Room. Not threatening.
Well, they tried to make all the trailers were making Taskmaster out as the villain, and we kind of find out it's just some guy behind a desk,
Her father
flipping switches or whatever.
Not good.
No.
Not good. So yeah, the villain of this was absolutely outstanding. I thought the whole part. Now, before we get into the ending and the other things,
I do want to talk about a couple other things about the movie. And I don't think we need to do a full plot synopsis. I don't want to give away everything that happens in the movie.
I do want to talk about what you didn't like about the movie. Was there anything that you didn't like?
Boy, that's a good question.
I have something right off the top of my head
that
really bothered me.
Okay.
It bothered me, and believe it or not, I know this is going to sound sadistic and stuff. It bothered me they didn't kill anybody.
Yeah. So that was the one thing that my son Charlie said the same thing. He's like, I can't believe they didn't kill anybody off.
Right.
And I agree, because it was a huge rumor leading up to this.
Somebody's going to die. He said it in some of his characters.
What he said was, this is the end for this team. And we took it to mean he's killing some people off.
He said, there are some characters you will never see again.
Well, and I believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, Drax said he's not coming back, ever. No. Right? I mean, Dave Bautista said he's not coming back as Drax again,
and
right?
Zoe Gamora,
Saldana.
Yeah.
Zoe Saldana said she's going to be making Avatar movies for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
So, look, those two characters, frankly, in this movie, as comic relief as Drax is, I don't think he was as compelling a character in this movie. But the fact they didn't kill anybody off surprised me, but it didn't.
Yeah.
In that, I don't think James Gunn wanted to go out that way.
Yeah.
I don't think he wanted to go out having to mourn one of his characters that he built for all these years. And I think he did it in a great way that it left the door open for them to come back, but also could close it at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, these people don't ever have to come back.
Still bothered me.
Look, I tell you, the whole scene when they're escaping the evolutionary ship, and everybody's off except for Star-Lord, and he goes back to pick up the Zune, and then he gets trapped and he jumps out in space. I'm like, if he dies because he went back to get the Zune, come on. I mean, that was my feeling when it happened, but literally, my son was like, he puts his hands over his mouth. He's like, oh my God. Is he going to die?
He's going to die like Yondu.
Well, we knew somebody was going to die, so he was like, this is it.
Right.
This is it.
Yeah.
And then, he gets saved.
Or when Rocket was on the table, I thought that was it.
Yeah.
Well,
I did and I didn't, because we had seen enough scenes in the trailer of him back in his uniform. And we hadn't seen it yet in the movie up until that point. I'm like, when is that scene happening? Right. So you kind of knew he was coming back.
Did you notice there was a scene in the trailer that wasn't in the movie?
The only one I saw in the trailer that was in the movie was of the High Evolutionary floating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was that? I thought they couldn't put snes in trailers that weren't in the movie.
They do that stuff all the time.
They made a law that you can't do that anymore.
Who made a law?
The film
Motion Picture Association of America made a law that you can't put scenes in a trailer that aren't in the movie?
Can't put scenes in a trailer that aren't in the movie anymore to misdirect, to make people think that the movie is going to be better than it was, and then
we should just do that, Titanium. We should just make trailers, completely fake them, for movies that are never coming out. We just make money doing
People on the internet do it all the time. I just saw a trailer for Spider-Man 4. It's ridiculous. And people are like, I can't wait for this movie. I'm like, what are you talking about? Every single clip in there is from a previous movie.
I know.
Idiot. That bothered me. And
that nobody died, that bothered you?
It did a little bit. I thought because, and maybe it was my expectation of, finally getting closure on these characters and end their story in a way, that was compelling.
We did have some deaths in this movie.
We did, and I thought it was.
Mother died. I mean, Aisha, the Sovereign Mother, died.
The High Evolutionary, he created
the Sovereign. Right?
Yeah, the Sovereign. Yeah,
but she's dead,
and it had a part creating Adam, which Adam Warlock, which was great. He was a little off.
I'd say, look, that was the one part of the movie that disappointed me a little bit. Look, knowing Adam Warlock and who he is and the character that he plays and his history in the comic books and so many compelling stories that he's been part of in his history in the comics, including Infinity War and a bunch of other things. He was pretty much comic relief in this movie for the most part.
Well, he was a badass and started off and kicked the shit
out. Oh, the
power
shit set is off the charts. Just, kicked the crap out of most of the Guardians to start the movie. I thought that opening scene was phenomenal. fantastic.
When he flew in and kicked the shit out of them.
Oh,
that was great.
Yeah, that
special effects were off the chart. Everything was to a T awesome.
So good.
Yeah.
He was probably the one character that I wish had been done differently, but I kind of understand why they did it the way they did it.
Not
had to
done
fit
differently, but I felt like they didn't spend a lot of time developing that character.
And maybe they will in the future.
Maybe they will, right?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
So I'll say the one comment that my wife gave me, which I didn't agree with, she said the soundtrack could have been better, and that really has been the underpinning of all the Guardians movies has been the soundtrack. I mean, the soundtrack for the first two movies are iconic. I mean, they're just great songs or selection. And here's how we know James Gunn films his movies. He picks the soundtrack for the movie before he starts filming.
Yeah.
And he plays these songs on set all the time to get the characters and the actors and actresses in tune with the theme that he's trying to set with the music.
Yeah.
So music plays a big role. I thought the song selections for most of the movie were spot on and awesome.
Yeah.
Some eclectic, really not thought of songs at some point in time for certain areas. There was one of my kind of closet favorite bands, Faith No More. We Care a Lot when they were going to Counter Earth for the first time. That it was just a really kind of perfect song for that situation. I think Radiohead's Creep to start the movie off really kind of kind of juxtaposing how Rocket was feeling about himself and his history. It was right after the scene we had seen of him being turned into the character that he was turned into from the first part. Really talked about him and how Peter was feeling with the loss of Gamora, not having the relationship with her. I thought that song was great. No Sleep Till Brooklyn when they were in the big fight scene on the spaceship was a great song.
Yeah.
My daughter was like, Florence and the Machine for the end of the movie when they're all dancing. Are you kidding me? And I'm like, I kind of get it in some ways.
My daughter loved the soundtrack, and I recall turning to her twice in the movie and saying, "Great song!" Like it it was perfect.
It is just part of James Gunn's movies, and I thought. Look, this was not like a 70s soundtrack or an 80s soundtrack. It was very much so late 80s, 90s, and 2000s music all across. And I thought he picked some great songs. Some popular ones, but some not as popular. And I thought they were perfectly picked. I thought it was fine. My wife was like, "It should have been better." I'm like, come on, it was pretty good.
My daughter doesn't know some of those songs, and she was like, "Yeah, that was a cool song. Who does that?
Yeah.
Who sings that?"
Yeah.
Like,
let's talk about the ending. So at the end of the movie, obviously the Guardians defeat the High Evolutionary. We don't know if he's dead or not. We assume he is because he was left on a ship that was exploding. Yeah. So
with his face ripped off.
And that was another big surprise, right? That. We found out why it looked like his face was stretched across, himself. Yeah. And we thought it was just through some experiments, but it was because Rocket had basically slashed his face up so much when he killed all of his friends earlier that he had to stretch the skin over top of his face to kind of make him look normal again. We assume he's dead, but we don't know for sure. Again, you don't see a body. Mm-hmm. You don't know for sure, right? Peter almost dies, but doesn't. They save him, or
Adam Warlock saves him. That was kind of a cool...
Did you notice the scene looked like the Michelangelo painting of the Sistine Chapel, right? With God touching Adam, right? So that was kind of funny. I do think the way that they closed off all these character stories with Gamora going back to the Ravagers, and Peter and her kind of coming to grips with their relationship, and he's saying, she said to him, "I'm never going to be the Gamora that you had before."
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, I get that, but who you are ain't so bad either."
Right.
And that was kind of cool. They kind of like have this unspoken kind of maybe I bet
we were fun together.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea.
Right. And so I think she sees why her other self kind of failed for him, but it's nothing she's interested in. But he came to grips with that, and so he decides he wants to leave the team to go back home. He had really kind of gotten an earful from Mantis about, look, why did you leave your home? You were taken from your home when you were 8 years old, and your grandfather just lost his daughter. Don't think he was upset at all. And
by the way, Mantis, standout performance in this movie.
She was great.
Awesome.
Yeah, she was great. But he goes back to Earth, finds his grandfather, who hasn't seen him since his mother died, and they reconnect. So it seems like he's leaving the team to kind of spend some time on Earth, which could lead to a bunch of other things, which we'll talk about. Mantis is leaving the team. She says she needs a break. She said for most of her life she did everything Ego said, and the rest of her life she did everything the Guardian said. Now she wants to kind of figure out what she wants to do.
Yeah.
Drax wanted to go with her, and she said no. That kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
And so she's taking her 3. What are the name of the creatures? I don't even remember.
I don't either. They eat batteries.
Yeah, the things that eat batteries. Taking her 3 creatures with her, and she's going off and doing her own thing. Drax and Nebula are going to be staying on Nowhere, raising all of the children that they saved from the High Evolutionary.
Yeah, Drax was kind of crushed that Mantis didn't want him to go, because I think down deep inside they had something. He felt a connection to her, and they were very close. Plus, that chemistry was off the charts. So good. But he comes to realize, and then Nebula says, I need you here. You weren't born to be a destroyer. You were born to be
a dad. She said, I found out today what you were not born to be a destroyer. You were born to be a dad. And the way that he talked to and treated the children and was able to communicate with them was something that nobody else on the team had, and she needed him.
Right.
And we knew that Drax lost his family to Ronan in the first movie, and that's something that maybe he can recapture here. But again, as far as we know, Dave Bautista's not coming back. But that left everybody else, so that's the team. They're all leaving and doing something. And Rocket's like, so no more Guardians? And Peter basically, knights him and says no. He says,
you're the captain now.
He says, I'm going to leave the team in the best hands I can. Probably the person who's best to lead this team is you, Captain. And so he makes him the captain. And then Groot finally says words other than I am Groot or we are Groot. He says, I love you guys. And then all of a sudden the whole theater starts crying again when he says that.
I heard a big whimper out of your wife when he said that. I think that got to her big time.
It did. But we now have a new team of Guardians, and we learned in the post-credit scene who that team is. Again, we go through a whole final scene, and we know where the whole team's going, but we do get a post-credit scene with the new team. The new team is Rocket, Groot, who is now King Groot. I mean, he
giant
is
size,
enormous, hulking enormous.
Kind of cool. I like that.
Kraglin, who had finally mastered the arrow, Yondu's arrow. And so he's now on the team as well. Adam Warlock on the team.
A little bit smarter, a little bit more intelligent.
Right. Cosmo the space dog, who had a couple of big moments in the movie as well. She's on the team. And then Phyla Vel, who was one of the little girls they rescued from the High Evolutionary, is also a member of the team. And my wife was like, who is that little girl and why is she on the team and what are her powers? And we're like, oh, well, we'll have to find out. Again, large speculation. People have kind of figured this out, that she is playing Phyla Vel, who is the offspring or supposed offspring of the original Marvel, who's the Captain Marvel in the movies. Phyla Vel was on the Guardians of the Galaxy. As a matter of fact, on this cover here, you can see Phyla Vel right there.
Yep.
But
she kind of had that one glowing eye.
Yeah.
And then she had some glowing on her hands as they were running. Yeah.
Yep. So she's going to be part of the team now as well. So we have a new team of Guardians. Now, we know Marvel has come out publicly since Thor: Love and Thunder, has come out publicly and said, we are not ever making a 4th movie of any of the franchises ever again. Yeah. So I doubt we'll ever get another Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but we should see this team again.
Yeah.
We'll see them in Kang Dynasty, or we'll see them in
they
Secret
With
Wars.
Thor with only 3, but they did 4 with Thor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we'll see this team again in some form or fashion somewhere. Right.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I didn't hate the end credit scene. I thought it was great. It was a great look at the new team, developing that. Such a beloved Guardians of the Galaxy franchise that they've built to switch out the team members. Very similar to what they need to do with the Avengers, switching out the team member and putting fresh blood in there. I thought it was great. I thought it was really cool. And then there was another post-credit scene.
Yeah, another one, and it was Peter and his grandfather sitting in the kitchen just having breakfast, and on the newspaper that his grandfather's holding, there's a story on the newspaper about Kevin Bacon Tells All,
About
alien abduction from the Christmas special, for holiday special, which was kind of funny. But they were kind of just joking about the fact that the neighbor wants Peter to mow his lawn, but there's a 45-year-old person who's living in the home that should be very capable of mowing the lawn. Why isn't that person mowing the lawn? Why am I doing it?
Right.
Type of thing. Just kind of joking around, right?
And then the father says something like, "Oh, you have no idea." And he goes, "Well, now that you bring it up, now I want to know.
I need to know." Right.
So who is that? I think it's somebody. I think we might find out. Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. But the tagline that ends the movie is the legendary Star-Lord will return.
The legendary, good choice of wording there, a legendary Star-Lord will return. As you know, legendary Star-Lord was the name of his solo comic book run for Star-Lord. So does that mean he's going to get a solo movie? Does that mean he'll definitely be back? Because they said he'd be back in something. Secret Wars for sure. I think they could use him in Secret Wars.
Well, there's no question he's coming back in Secret Wars. If and how he comes back in something like Kang Dynasty, maybe.
Right.
I think he's detached from the team for sure.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt has not, since the movie came out, has not come out publicly and said, I'm done, or I'm taking a break, or it's time for me to move on and do other things. Look,
but now he's back on Earth. Could it be Captain America 4?
Well, see, so he has done other things. We know he did. He's done other movies and other projects. What he did, the Tomorrow War. He did. Yep. What was the SEAL team thing he did on Amazon Prime as well?
I forget. Where he loses like some of his
he's
memory.
Got brain cancer, right? Yeah, exactly. He's got a tumor, and he's trying to.
Can't remember. Good. It's pretty good though.
The Terminal List.
Yeah, Terminal List. There it is. Nice.
Hold it. But yeah, so he's done some other things, and I think look, I think this opens the door for a lot of things for him. Could he be part of some Earth-based team or Earth-based conflict? Absolutely. Could he be part of Captain America 4 the Thunderbolts? Absolutely, because he's now on Earth. Could he be part of Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars? I mean, I think there's a no-brainer. He will be at some point in time in some fashion. Could he have a solo project, whether it's a Disney Plus special or a special presentation or a solo movie? Maybe. I think the door is open there, but I think the fact that we're not going to have another Guardians movie doesn't mean that we won't have another Star-Lord movie, right?
Yeah. It just somebody else will give him a voice, and it won't be James Gunn, which could change the whole complexity of the character. But
there is speculation that James Gunn has talked to, or at least asked.
Kevin Feige?
No, asked.
Warner Brothers?
No, the Chris Pratt to play a role in the new DC universe.
Well, we thought Buster Gold would be perfect.
Booster Gold.
Booster, I'm sorry. Booster Gold would be perfect for him. His comic chops would be right in line with that character. But he's Star-Lord to me, so I hope.
And we'll see. And look, I think at this point in time he can kind of do whatever he wants, and I think that's why they kind of left it open. So. Yeah. So I didn't dislike the ending at all. I mean, like you said, a little disappointing that nobody died. Yeah. But think of if somebody had died, how would the end of the movie been? They would have been dancing on, in the streets of nowhere. Had one of the team members died. Yeah. They wouldn't have been. No. It'd have been a funeral, like it was at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with Yondu.
Yeah.
That's the way the movie would end, and I think they wanted to end on a positive note, which is one of the reasons why they didn't kill somebody off, right?
I mean, if there was a down part of the whole movie or some disappointing part of the movie, and that is it, I'm grateful because it's
that's the big criticism. Everything else was...
Adam Warlock, a little lacking in character development.
All right, it was a 98 out of 100.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Right?
Still great movie.
Right.
Highly suggest go seeing it. I'll definitely see it again. It's on my list probably this weekend to see again. So, Professor, great show. A lot of info. Let's ring the bell. School's over.
All right, well, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week for more Super Talk. To get in touch with us on social media, hit us up via email, supertalkpodcast@outlook.com or at supertalkpod on Twitter. Until then, stay super, everyone.
Stay super, everyone, and we are out.
Good show, Titanium.
Yes, sir.
Got corn on the cob, the man.
Yeah. I really like that movie.
Black Viper. Everyone likes this game. Haters gonna hate. And I know you can't wait to see the Black Viper. Round and round she goes. Hardly no one knows. And